been with healthcare, and you're also a happiness guru. So as I said, she's a lady who's healthy, happy, and hospitable. So,
Wow.
so our topic this afternoon is marketing mantra: don't sell, build relationships. And I couldn't agree more with it, really. So let's begin with telling us a bit about your background. We'd love to know more about, your background is, there's so much to uncover about what all you've done. So please tell us.
Thank you very much, Anita, for giving that brief introduction about me. And I'm, so, as you know, that we both have been ex-colleagues in Taj. I've
Right.
spent 16 years working in Taj. I was driving business excellence over there for the region of AP, Tamil Nadu, and Kerala, having 21 hotels across the brand. Business excellence is basically, I was also a Tata Group certified as a resource, as a certified, TBM assessor. And every year I would go and assess at least another Tata company, another industry. And we would look at, all the aspects of business, whether it is strategic, whether it is leadership or customer or operations and thereon, and would be involved in giving the senior management the way forward for the next step in the business excellence journey. So I guess having come from Taj with an exposure of customer centricity, the DNA that goes on, the ecosystem that goes on, had an exposure in that. Plus, combined with this exposure of assessing other companies, different industries, and customer becomes the center of any business.
Totally, totally.
And I mean, they are the center of
Can't
the
skip that. Yeah, that goes without saying. Right.
coming from there, I guess customer focus became my forte. So when I moved in to healthcare some 7 years back, it was a seamless journey because I was always looking at other industry and looking at the business as a whole from the TBM framework. And
Right.
there I kind of, was appointed as customer experience head. So
Uh-huh.
that industry was, while they were really good at excelling at clinical excellence and doctors were good, but it's very less was done towards the patient themselves. In terms of the patient centricity, and that's where I came in, wherein I was expected to drive the culture itself. To start with looking at what is the customer talking about and what is it that we need to work on, setting the culture and right from listening to them to deriving what we need to do based on the feedback coming in or based on the pulse of customer journey. And luckily in Bangalore, I moved to Bangalore that time. Bangalore is a hub of startup companies. So
Right.
uh, helped me to work with even technology to make a leap in process improvement with the help of technology. Whatever projects that we would take up to work on customer pain areas, we would work with all the lenses of people, SOPs, the processes, and technology, to look at every filter and make a change. I would say I'm a marketing expert, but in a way, yes. I focused a lot on customer retention strategy.
Okay.
The acquisition part was the sales and marketing.
Right. Right.
That's how and wherein I come in this topic today. The retention part is what I was focusing upon.
Mm-hmm.
So there
In
you go.
fact, unfortunately, very often, once certain companies have a customer, they don't care about the customer who's with them, and they're so busy going out into the market looking for new ones. And that's so much more costly to look for a new customer than retaining and keeping an older customer happy. But yes, of course, you do lose customers at times. They get bored or whatever else, or they say they die. That also happens. But yeah, you shouldn't let go of a customer until it's really. So that's a big this thing. So tell us more about your hospital healthcare part.
Yeah, sure. So that's what it is. While there was a team looking into customer acquisition all the time through various channels of sales and everything, very little was thought. I mean, as I said, there was not even a culture of looking at customer feedback to start with. When I started, they used to take a feedback on a paper, pencil and paper and whatever the traditional way. And by the time I would look at data, it would be like a month lost. I think the first project which I worked upon was listening to customer. If I
Mhm.
don't digitize it, and get a real-time view of what's happening across the hospitals. So I was I had a pan-India role, wherein there were 10 hospitals in India that time and two in Malaysia. So
Okay.
until I have a view of my customer, what are they speaking real time all across, and have the analytics and data, I will not be able to understand what do we need to do. Or
Right.
so that was the starting point. The second step was, how do I make it as a culture to, typically the reviews were revolving around PNL or clinical outcomes.
Right.
Introduce this customer data point to be reviewed also at all leadership level, starting from MD and his team to board level, to down the line to unit level, leadership level, and down the line. So there was a tremendous resistance initially, but I get with the digitized view, they were like initially wowed, and then later on they started seeing the facts and figures. For example, I would say that. Typically, we found a lot of complaints in food and beverage and housekeeping area. Now,
Mhm.
healthcare never believed. They said, "Hello, we are." The patients come for treatment. What
They
is
don't care. Yeah.
you understand? But
Hmm.
when the dashboard showed them, you can't ignore it. You
So
know.
that's so basic because the patient comes for the cure and the medication, but
Yeah.
the experience or the moment of truth for the customer is that by khana bhi to, the food's got to be up to the mark, and so is the
Right.
space to be clean and neat and as per their expectations. So it's
Hmm.
a customer expectation, but maybe the hospital never looked at it that way. So that's wonderful to hear.
Yeah. So I guess only the data points when it started showing blaring. The
Mhm.
one of the top three across the group. Um, Besides, other things like even simple thing as appointment booking, or how do you book the appointment? Traditionally, they were calling up the hospital to book an appointment, which would you would like for 4 or 5 tries you can't get through, and then if they are lucky, they would transfer to another department. Coming from Taj, you can understand
The
where
frustration, literally.
when I joined, I was like, oh my God, this is like a 5-year plan. Every place I put my hand into, and I had to really, really work on it to come to some level. Of course, you can't copy paste everything, but the thing was, how do I start bit by bite? Setting the culture, setting the review mechanism, setting the continuous improvement thread, and looking at technology to make leap improvements across the board. So I would
Right.
say here, Anita, one thing is we are no longer living in the industrial age now. We're living in the age of internet, where
Totally.
um, uh, the even whether economy evolved from commodities, goods and services to experience, and now to connection.
Right away, like look at you and me connecting here and connecting with the world across. And
Exactly.
the Women's Economic Forum, we're, connecting with women sitting in different parts of the world.
Absolutely. So see the change. It's no more resting at experience level itself. It has
Right.
moved on to connection where there is no boundary, there is no limit. By the help of the device, like we're connecting with all across the women across the world or men across the world, just by hopping into the superhighway of internet. So in this era, as Seth Gordon says, in this era of where abundance of choice and endless options are available, premium is attention and trust.
Right, right, right. Wonderful.
So you just can't. How do you attract and get the attention unless you build relationship?
Totally.
You just can't sell the product and services in the market saying, hello, I am less costly, less expensive, I have so many features. Not enough. It is bygone era. And a lot of time, let's not confuse, marketing is not same as a sales and advertising. I would rather say, as Goldratt, he pointed out that it is the ability of a company to bring the market to desire the product.
Beautiful. Yes.
Or rather another way, how do you create the competitive edge?
How to stand out and how to.
The competitive edge, which
Hmm.
means we need to know what are the market segments. I've seen a lot of companies, not even organization, are not be clear about market segment in healthcare itself to start with. I still haven't figured out a clear cut, like we used to have in hospitality,
Right.
and leisure and everyone. In
Correct.
healthcare, is like very simple, very mundane as cash payer and insurance payer, like that. But it's too mundane. So unless we do market segmentation and identify clear cut requirements of each segment and deliver the competitive edge, that's where I'm coming to. We will not be marketing. And my learnings from Taj, building relationship was our core competence.
Certainly. In fact, Taj has, the Tatas and the Taj have been the top brand, which came out recently, that, the most revered brands in India is the Taj and the Tatas. So that was such a nice feeling to have about that.
You know,
Right.
I still remember in Taj, we were always striving towards personalization across the levels or departments, across the levels. So if a guest has to come into the hotel before the guest arrives, the front office team would need to do the KYC, know your customer,
Right.
so that they are not saying hi, hello, how was your flight. They
Did
need to make an intelligent conversation, and I think the first thing that we all had as a service standard was address them by surname. That is the first
Yeah.
for building relationship. If you keep calling them sir or ma'am, you are generalizing them. How do we personalize at every area? Whether you go to a coffee shop and the steward will usher you to your favorite corner that you want to sit, and the chef will cook you something that you always had asked for.
Right.
It's like telling, listen, I know you, I know your likes and dislikes. And that was a strong point for Taj. They had this they had this, CFS, which would travel not only, this knowledge would not only reside in one hotel.
One hotel, right? But it spreads
So,
across the chain, right?
so that was, they built processes around building relationship.
Making you feel at home, literally.
Yeah, so even housekeeper can deliver. They would know in Delhi the guest stayed there and he wanted two pillows before even he asked. It was there. I mean, imagine the kind of impact
It
uh,
has on the person.
in relationship, and of course there was ongoing effort by everyone who interacted to build relationship.
Mhm.
It was
In
not.
fact, even while checking into a hotel, we all know that, it's on the computer, your name is there or whatever. And even when you call the room service from the room and they reply with it, still gives you a little bit of a good feeling. I mean, and we know about it, but yet as on the other side of the table, you still feel happy about it.
Seriously. So I guess those are the differentiators. You can have a brick and mortar who's another hotel, which is so much more, well designed or with latest equipments and all. But these relationship is, I think, what I saw in Taj also when India opened up the market for foreign hotels to come in. They were coming up with a better brick and mortar and state of art, facilities and all
They
that.
were newer and shinier and
And
whatever.
yet Taj was still able to retain most of their customers base is only because of relationship.
Right, right.
Really, I mean, it plays a role everywhere, and that is a differentiator. And if you can master the processes around it, you can master how to drive it in terms of training, how to drive it in terms of reviews on an everyday basis, and really, really drill it down the line across the organization. Um, that is what I call customer retention strategy, which is the marketing mantra, a part that is mostly not reviewed, not planned out in most of other organizations.
Right, right.
I've been in healthcare and I really am telling you, not enough discussions happen around it. A lot of discussion happen around acquisition.
So it's interesting that what one's learning is from, say, hospitality, you can easily take it across to, healthcare and, hospitals, or you could take it to retail and, so many other industries, airlines and so on and so forth. So very many times, like I go to say a mall or a store, and you ask for something, the way it's dealt with, you sometimes feel like, I don't want to come back here, because they haven't taken care of you, the way you expected it, or they. But if somebody, does that little extra, that they understand what you're looking for, what you want, then you want to go back there because you feel that comfort level and that relationship. So I think that's very important. But sometimes, I think, like, suppose, say you're going to a particular brand and you've been buying from them something every month or two, or whatever it is, and then you don't show up for 6 months. Shouldn't somebody pick up a phone and say that, hello, what happened? But I don't see that happening many a time, that maybe if they'd even just bothered to give you a call, you might think that, hey, yeah, I haven't been there and let me go back.
So there are
That's
two.
interesting.
Sanita, you did rightly point out that sometimes we visit a place and we don't want to go back because something was not as per our expectations. Big no, which means you're going to tell 10 of your friends, or maybe put it up in social media and tell all those people who don't know also that, listen, guys, I had a bad experience. That's a big no for any organization. But a lot of organization which I've seen is thriving on the NPS score or the customer satisfaction scores. And they say, oh, my customer is happy. They came for this product or services, I've delivered, and they seem to be happy. But why is my business not growing?
Right.
It's just because we may have satisfied them, but we have not converted them into a loyal customer or a customer who become our advocates.
Right. No, it was very interesting. Sometimes, companies put up a policy and then they don't realize that how does it translate. Like, suppose, you've gone to a clothing store. Now, on a weekend, I do understand that they say you can only take 3 pieces of clothing into the changing room because there are long lines. And if everyone's going to take 20 pieces, it's going to take hours before the next person gets a chance. But sometimes, you go to a store on a Monday or a Wednesday and it's empty, and you took, say, 5 pieces or 8 pieces in, and you count it and tell them, and they're like, no, but our policy says 3 pieces. And you're like, I'm not going to keep coming in and out. So, companies need to change and adapt and see the requirements, see the situation, on the ground level. And then, so sometimes these things become too.
Yeah, a very important point you brought out. I have a top line strategy of enhancing my product and my services. I may have service standards and so on and so forth. But if I haven't empowered my team at frontline area to take decisions on the customer first culture, which is so evident in Taj. I mean, I go back to my Taj days and see what was the ecosystem, how it was brought about. So unless that is there, if we don't empower our team down the line to take decisions without, to have the courage to even cross the lay down policies for the customer.
Correct.
That is a winning edge. I mean, when I say building relationship, it's not about just processes and policies laid out. It is about how to support your team to take those decisions. It can't just tell them take decision and not support them. I have seen so many times general managers themselves in the Taj. If there was some misuse of that, going extra mile, I would bring that going extra mile was the ethos across. What have we done today to go that extra mile for somebody? And they sometimes they may take a decision which may not be right, but that time they will support them, and then they counsel them, okay, listen, next time please don't overstep so much, but I appreciate the fact that you did it. How many companies encourage their team?
Right. And yeah, exactly. And because that's the moment of truth for the customer or the client. And once he's gone out from that particular moment, then he's carried that baggage or that bad experience with him, and that's not going to change. And of course, how do you then do your crisis management or bring back your customer and so on? So that's really interesting.
So I guess as BCG also came up with brilliant study on customer advocacy and converting the same customer. So they came up with like, it's not just about going extra mile, which should be the culture for every frontline one. But when you add it with altruism, it makes a bigger impact when you kind of imprint in your customer's mind a memorable experience.
Totally.
Memorable experience is the key to customer becoming your advocate, and you can imprint it only when you build relationship.
Right, right, right.
So, for example, in healthcare also, in Fortis, I work in Fortis Hospital right now, and I'm looking into customer relationship management pan India. And we did it. There is a team which interfaces with our in-house patients and the family. Or there was always a team there, whose job was only to kind of meet every day these patients, in-house patients, and sort out any issues.
Okay.
So when I saw that, I said they would go enter the room and ask, "Is everything okay? Did you have lunch? Do you have any issues?" I said, "Hello, what is this?" You know, if you ask about issues, obviously they think and they come, but you have a golden opportunity to build connect. Nobody else has the bandwidth. The nurse who's supposed to look after at least 10 to 12 patients at a time, she is running around doing errands for the patients, keeping the clinical things in place. The records is also very important. She has
Right.
bandwidth to connect, and you guys are missing this opportunity by asking, do I need to resolve any issue?
Right.
There the patient is coming with his visitor or attendee. That's the golden moment, that's the golden opportunity. Not only just know the patients, what is the background, where are they coming from, who are the family members, and then you will find opportunity to do extra mile.
Correct, correct.
So it is.
But sometimes, I've also seen this that, you go to, say, a restaurant where they know you in a five-star, and the first, the general manager passes by and you're having your meal and they'll come and ask you, how was the meal? Or, whatever. They, of course, know exactly how to deal with it. But sometimes when the next person comes by, the restaurant manager comes, then the, F&B manager comes by, then the person who's dealing with your tea. So you've got about 15 people who've come and disturbed your dinner. So
You're absolutely right. Don't lay down processes in such a way that it becomes a robotical.
yeah.
And it loses its essence. Absolutely loses its essence. I
Mm.
remember once I used to travel a lot because there were 21 hotels and all, and my job was always antenna was always okay. What's happening? And I like what I really liked about Taj is even if you are a staff traveling and
Mm.
you're staying in house, you are treated just like any other guest walking.
Any other guest, and in fact they ask you for more feedback because you'd be able to give a lot more, especially with regard to the room and other experiences, because you're noticing.
Right. So that was the culture there. And I do remember I also remembered when we pay the call center, I mean, the service center, you will call up, okay, I want tea or something. And then you will call up to order something else. Like I want a pillow. Every time after it's been delivered, I will get a call. Has it been delivered? How was the experience? Hello. I mean, so many times I have to run and pick up the phone. And
Yes, yes.
and if I have to, if I may kind of complain little bit also, the whole Jingpan will come to apologize, even if it is after 9 p.m. And I'm like, listen, guys, where is the sensitivity gone? After 9 p.m., you're walking into a single lady traveler room with manager and the chef and everything. Where has it gone? Sensibility and sensitivity is important. I think even to drive, very rightly pointed out, Anita. While we, as a leadership, drive extra mile and go all over if there's any complaint or do things, but sensitivity and sensibility have to be a part and parcel in the training.
Right. So tell us a bit about now the other part of you, the happiness. How do you manage and balance the happiness quotient in yourself and others? Love to know that, because you're always so smiling, cheerful, happy, and being such a career woman in so many areas. And I know the industries that you're working in are take a lot of time and effort. So tell us all about this, Archana.
Okay, I wasn't prepared for this, but uh, I'm also a certified trainer for the happiness program of Art of Living.
Mm-hmm.
Believe me, that is my source of peace, source of happiness and joy. From I've been associated with it since 1995, and
Mm-hmm.
time when I was going through rough patch, you know, and so there's a breathing technique called Sudarshan Kriya.
Right, right, right.
There's a lot of science. AIMS have done a research on it and all. Just with this breathing technique, a huge change happens.
Mm-hmm.
So I relate to it because I was going through a rough patch, and in rough patch, people go through acute depression and all. How with the very first session of Sudarshan Kriya, I felt a heavy burden lift off my body,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw changes happening inside me despite environment still was same. I mean, my miseries were not over that
You
immediately.
dealt with it differently. Mm.
The fact that I was not touched by it, I was watching it as a witness, and I never looked back thereafter. I mean, and don't have any regrets either. And there is, how do I say, I'm more fearless now. Resilient, I will not even term that. Life can be uncertain, but I guess I embrace uncertainty more gracefully now, because I feel the protective layer. There's a protective layer around me all the time. I guess that sense of security, the kriya or the grace, whatever we call it works, and that helps you to deal with all situations, the happy or the unhappy ones. And that is why it's called art of living. How do you keep on smiling in all situations?
So life throws all kinds of things your way, and then you need to learn how to deal with it. So, in fact, even I had done the art of living at one point, and it gave me one of those aha moments.
Right,
And it was very interesting. I was sitting there, and there were a lot of us in this group, and they normally have the trainer or the leader or whatever.
right.
So asked person number one, so are you happy? So they said, no, not really. So when will you be happy? My son is in 12th standard and when his results come out. Then
Right.
person. So, they went on like this. And then we realized that everybody's waiting to be happy. Why can't you be happy today? And
Good.
that's what hit me really hard. And I'm like, what am I waiting for? I need to be happy today and make everybody happy.
Ah, absolutely, absolutely. So everything spoken there in that workshop, not just the kriya. Uh, we always, vacillate between the past and the future. A mind is wired to do that. And how kriya brings you effortlessly to the present moment most of the time, and present moment is where you're happy. You're not bringing the regrets of the past. You're not
Anxious
anxious
for the
about the
future.
future. If you're able to do that, and if you're able to accept things around you, I think that the second important thing which happened to me at that time, and which I believe in it now strongly, is how do you accept the present moment
Yeah.
and the situation around you?
So how are you bringing all your experience from your various fields into the current COVID times and it's quite it's so different for each and every one of us. It's something we've never ever faced before, and the future we don't know what it holds and when it's going to change. When are we going to get? When is it going to be safe for us all to be actually having our WEF again? But then I guess human beings are so resilient. Look at this. If we can't have a conference in conference halls and whatever, like we've had it in the past, we've evolved and we've changed and we've all learned how to use this wonderful platform that's created for us. And we are now conferencing the world over and through our computer. So just look at that. How amazing is that?
Exactly. I completely believe in that. Um, During COVID, things have changed many ways for me also in many aspects. My mom had tested positive,
Oh, okay.
month back, and it was a little traumatic thing. But I guess, as I said, nothing will happen. There's a protective layer. Just be with her, go through it. She recovered completely after that, and there are other things churning. But as you rightly said, uh, uh, things evolve, and we all evolve. We adapt to the changes around us. On the hindsight, when you really look at it, I've been very busy taking these art of living programs during this period.
Okay.
Very busy. The reason being, I know I've seen a lot of people getting into anxiety mode.
Right.
A lot of us, a lot of people around me, I see this becoming panic. They're panicking actually, and I felt this is a wonderful tool, and this is the right time for me to reach out. And we evolved by giving online. We used to always give a offline, in-person sessions. We also learned. I mean, I started taking it from March onwards, and connected to people all across the country, various aspects, and the family is only increasing. That's what I see it as. And believe me, the initial days of when people were so, so they were fearing everything around them and all. I was busy increasing my family.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't even know how my time passed. It was really, and if people were coming back and sharing, oh my God, I mean, feeling so, we're able to sleep now.
Wow.
I mean, if even one person comes back and says, this is what has happened to me, my efforts I felt was worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And all that plays when you're calm, when you're in a calm state of mind. I think even your decision making is much sharper and intuitive, which helps in you in every way, whether it's professional or personal. So it reflected a lot in my personal thing, in my professional stand also.
So it's brought you a good home life balance, work and home. Wonderful. No wonder you're such an excellent, woman leader. And I have a surprise for you. You have, on behalf of WEF, I'd like to present to you an award for the iconic woman creating a better world for all, which is exactly what you're doing. So congratulations. Thank you.
I'm so honored.
Totally enjoyed the session.
Thank you.
I love your bamboo plants over there.
Your feng shui,
Yeah, and 3 is like for good luck, health, wealth, and happiness. Bye bye then. God bless.